about the risk of this virus to our health and the health of our community so that we're not acting appropriately.
And for Jovi, the lesson is obvious.
It's hard to live in fear every day, but as of right now, it's not about living in fear, but kind of just taking all the extra precautions that you can take.
A new emergency order requires all brick and mortar schools in Florida reopen next month. Many school districts like Leon County have been working to reestablish reopening plans before Monday's order. The order does allow schools to continue offering digital and distance learning options, but only in addition to the traditional classroom setting rather than in place of it. The goal is to make sure students have access to critical services offered at school in addition to education, but some in our area say that's not a good idea.
We just put out a final survey 2 days ago. The window is still open, but over 4,500 teachers have responded, our members. And the vast majority, I can tell you, are concerned about going back 5 days a week. Only about 14% of teachers who responded said that they are comfortable going back from day one on August 10th to 5 days a week of live instruction on campuses.
The order requires schools offer a full range of services, including those to students of low-income families, students of migrant workers, homeless students, those with disabilities, and other vulnerable populations.
And as families weigh their choices about whether to send their kids back to class, we're finding out that many are now turning to homeschooling. Eric Waxler tonight sorting out what you need to know if you become your child's teacher.
The Zimski family is very experienced when it comes to homeschooling.
I'm about to do half a year of math in like a month.
They've been doing it for years with their 3 children.
It's not for everyone, but we've had so many great experiences with it.
Now they are sharing what they know with dozens of families living a public school system that's dealing with reopening during a pandemic.
We are going to be hindered too as homeschoolers because we are very social. I think a lot of people don't realize how social homeschoolers are.
Heather Polk oversees a Facebook group with thousands of homeschoolers. She says homeschooling is very different than the distance learning most students were forced into this spring.
This is where you're taking on the responsibility and the school teachers in the classroom are no longer grading or doing anything, okay?
Polk says there are many things to consider before making the switch.
If this is just temporary and you're bringing your kids out of school because you're trying to get through this season, then you always have to be thinking about keeping them on track so that when they go back to school, they're going to be able to be on course and they're going to keep up with their curriculums and standardized testing and all of that.
Experts say homeschooling is still an option for working parents. Learning can be done in the evening or on weekends. There's also neighborhood co-ops and hybrid schools.
In these times, it's probably going to be difficult, but I think the parent, they know whether it's the right thing for their child.
There are many online resources available, including FPEA.com.
Well, Tallahassee is painting the city with 3 words. Here you can see them coming together: Black Lives Matter. It's a trend we've seen across major cities across the country in support of the Black Lives Matter movement. Now it's made its way to the capital city. ABC 27's Christian Thomas talks to people and gets their thoughts on the mural.
They're the 3 words ringing throughout the nation, now painted on the streets of Tallahassee.
It's awesome that we get to experience it here in Tallahassee as well, opposed to seeing it on TV.
Martina Walker was born and raised in the capital city. When she heard about the mural, she felt her hometown was making a major statement. Black Lives Matter, smack dab in the middle of Railroad and Gain Streets, painted in bright yellow. Mayor Pro Tem Diane Williams-Cox says the mural's location was no mistake.
We wanted to do it in a more intentional place. You have FAMU and Southside. From the west, you have with the west side, TCC and Florida State.
This mural is permanent, and this intersection gets the most amount of traffic in the city. The goal of the mural to bridge the divide between universities.
I think that it's going to bring some type of unity between the black university and the white university.
Blake Lafita says he supports the mural, but thinks it should go in a place that will spark more conversation.
I just don't know that students are really in the most need of converting because they're kind of the ones that are coming out to protests and stuff, what I've seen.
The city says they have received criticism about the mural, but it's time to have difficult conversations.
Initially, there may be some shock value, but we're going to overcome this, so we're just doing our small part to say we agree that all lives matter, but the movement of the moment is Black Lives Matter.
In Tallahassee, Christian Thomas, ABC 27.
And despite today's wet weather, the city is hoping the mural will be complete before tomorrow's City Commission meeting.
Disney opens just days from now, but not everyone is feeling the magic. Who can get into the parks and who says it's too soon to let anyone in? And new COVID-19 concerns, why scientists are questioning whether the current safety guidelines are enough to keep you safe.
Tonight, hundreds of scientists say the coronavirus is airborne. Now they're asking public health officials to provide guidelines to reduce the risk of spread. Shira Tarlow with our partners at Newsy explains.
Hundreds of scientists say there's evidence that the novel coronavirus spreads by even the smallest air droplets, and they're calling on the World Health Organization and other public health bodies to address that. In an open letter published in a scientific journal, 239 scientists from 32 countries say the virus can spread when we talk, laugh, or sing, and float in the air for some time, where they can be inhaled deeply into the lungs. That means particles can spread farther than previously thought. The WHO has long held that the virus spreads primarily from person to person through small droplets from the nose or mouth, which spread when an infected person coughs, sneezes, or talks, but it doesn't mention infectious particles lingering in the air.
The functional difference here is droplets come from sneezing and coughing, and they are large droplets, and they fall to the ground or they fall onto surfaces. An aerosolized transmission, which happens while people are speaking, while people are singing, they actually are a pretty substantial source of spread. Aerosols can hang out in the air for much longer. They can go further than 6 feet.
In a statement to Newsy, WHO said they are aware of the article and are reviewing its contents with their technical experts. Scientists say the airborne nature of the virus is not news, but public health organizations seem reluctant to recognize that.
If you call this aerosol driven, it has all sorts of implications for what kind of ventilation hospitals should be doing, what kind of masks doctors and nurses should be wearing.
Early on in the disease outbreak, there was debate in the scientific community about whether coronavirus spreads through respiratory droplets or by aerosols. The scientists who wrote the letter say current guidelines are insufficient to provide protection. To limit airborne transmission, they call for improved ventilation, social distancing, and mask wearing. Shira Tarlow, Newsy, Washington.
Have you put off your beauty routine for fear of getting COVID-19 while getting a pedicure or getting your eyebrows done? Well, experts say your chance is medium risk. They say it's very important that you wear a mask and that the esthetician also wear a mask or face shield. And as for pedicures, well, the risk is a little bit lower because they're not as close to your face.
Things like barriers, as well as mandating masks by employees to help reduce the risk. And so that may help. But again, you're talking about you may be going into an enclosed space where there may be multiple people in the room.
Doctors also recommend limiting the number of clients that are coming in and leaving every other chair open to give that extra amount of distance from other clients.
The doors to Disney will be back open soon after being closed for months because of the pandemic. The folks at Walt Disney World in Orlando say they're ready to reopen, but not everybody's happy about it. Magic Kingdom and Animal Kingdom will open this Saturday. Then Disney's Hollywood Studios and Epcot will open July 15th. But guests will need a park reservation to get inside. A woman planning to go to that opening says she got a reservation for this weekend, but she's worried about the virus.
Not so much worried about things that will have to be done differently, like face masks and social distancing. That doesn't bother me, but really it's just other people not following the rules that makes me nervous.
The Actors Equity Association, which represents hundreds of actors at the resort, says not enough is being done to protect staff, considering the number of cases of COVID-19 across Florida. And the NBA is also heading to Disney, the ESPN Wide World of Sports to be exact. Romina Puga has more on the NBA's restart and how coronavirus has already affected other leagues and their seasons.
Siakam, skies to the hole.
The NBA takes a major step to restart the season amid coronavirus. Today, its first round of players arrive at ESPN's Wide World of Sports complex in Disney World Orlando, where they'll live and play for the next few months. Disney is the parent company of ABC. The 22 participating teams will be housed in a so-called bubble campus. The goal, to shield them from COVID-19. They'll have 24-hour VIP concierge and on-site barbers, manicurists, pedicurists, and hair braiders, along with players-only lounges.
They can go and play ping pong where they can play cards, although they're not allowed to play doubles ping pong.
Wizards player Ish Smith believes it'll bring players together.
I truly feel that it's going to be an experience that when we're done, that we'll look back and be like, you know what, that wasn't too bad. That I had a lot of fun just kind of fellowshipping with the other guys around the league.
But an ominous sign this week as Major League Soccer, which is already holding a tournament at the Disney complex, pulled the entire FC Dallas team out of the competition after at least 10 players and a coach tested positive. For Major League Baseball, the Nationals, Astros, and Cardinals have canceled team workouts because of testing delays. A new reality, the Yankees playing intra-squad scrimmages. You can see pitcher Zach Britton doing his best to follow distancing protocols, kicking the ball away to avoid touching it with his hands. Atlanta Braves outfielder Nick Markakis, the latest high-profile player to opt out of this season.
To have to go out there and play in front of an environment with no fans, it's not baseball to me.
The MLS announced today that a game scheduled for tomorrow between Nashville and Chicago has been postponed after 5 Nashville players tested positive for COVID-19. In Colorado, Romina Puga, ABC News.
Dunkin has announced that it will be closing 450 locations nationwide by the end of the year. The coffee and donut chain says the closures will be at Speedway locations. The gas stations only represent 0.5% of the company's footprint. There are 12,900 Dunkin locations, all of which are franchised owned.
Well, if you're looking into a nursing home for a loved one, you may have to do a little more digging to see how they handle the coronavirus. Many facilities are only reporting recent cases and deaths on the COVID-19 Medicare website. That's because the government is only requiring data as of May 8th to be made public. Right now, there's no penalty for withholding previous numbers that may make the home look bad. For example, Life of Care in Washington State, where one of the first major outbreaks happened, is reporting no confirmed cases and no deaths on the Medicare page right now.
Well, take a look at these flames. This is video out of Douglas County, Nevada overnight. Officials say that the Numbers fire reached over 3,500 acres overnight. Douglas County officials say they don't know what caused that fire.
78 degrees right now at Tallahassee International with maybe a couple clouds, but at the observation point at the airport, it's showing as clear. Winds out of the southwest, 8 miles per hour. It's a very humid night, and that's what you get when you get some passing rain from time to time over the last 12 to 24 hours and even stretching way back into the weekend. Most area temperatures around the mid 70s and upper 70s, so you expect it to be pretty warm on a July night. That's exactly what we have. Not too incredibly unsettled. A couple spots of light rain, primarily right around sections of Monticello and central Jefferson County, so right along Interstate 10 and thereabouts. A couple showers around Apalachicola Bay and diminishing rain activity across interior South Georgia. Much of the activity has been moving west to east, and this batch of light rain is no different. Had a couple of thunderstorms from time to time right around the Lake Seminole area earlier in the evening. Those have since diminished into those lingering sprinkles that are now around Monticello. So it's been an unsettled pattern in general over the last several days, thanks in part to abundant moisture across our region and that swirl of low pressure that snuck up on us over the weekend, drifting into the Savannah River area. That could move into the western Atlantic off the Carolina coast and maybe cause a little more development in terms of a tropical or subtropical system, but it won't have any impacts on us because we will be staying where we are. That system moves to the northeast, so it leaves us alone. However, it's also leaving a lot of moisture behind, and we'll still have mostly a west wind pattern with some areas of low pressure to the north and a high over the Gulf. So that continues to give us that west wind component. and lingering clouds. The moisture is not quick to leave, so we do have areas of cloudiness, some breaks of sun, and a scattering of showers, and maybe even a couple of thunderstorms during the course of your Wednesday, with rain totals that will be mostly half an inch or less, maybe some heavier downpours like we've seen from time to time. That is possible, and not so much of a severe weather risk for tomorrow, but just be aware of those lightning flashes that can occur, especially those mid-afternoon and late afternoon showers and storms. Our temperatures are not going to change all that much overnight, falling maybe a few more degrees, 74 to 77 degrees or thereabouts for lows. And then with a little more sunshine, a few more of us can get towards 90 degrees. I think that's a little more possible, especially in tri-state counties. Some of us will fall just barely short in the upper 80s. Average high is 92, so not too far from your typical average in July. West to southwest winds 8 to 18 knots, 2 to 4 foot seas for boaters in the bay. Next few days will feature ongoing scattered rain activity with a little less coverage likely as we approach the end of this week. There's maybe a hint of dryness, although there's still going to be some general unsettledness across the southeast, maybe not so concentrated in terms of rain coverage. So about 40, maybe 50% for the region. As a result, we could turn warmer over the weekend. We'll be right back.
School football will look this fall is the big question that nobody really knows the answer to right now. In North Florida, teams are practicing, getting ready for that July 27th practice date. At Childs High School, the Timberwolves back at it, working out in groups of 20. Now, there's been a lot of discussion as to when the high school football season will even start. July 27th, that current first day of practice. Will that date hold? Will it be pushed back a couple of weeks? Even staggered start dates have been discussed. Another big question, fans. Will they be allowed in or not? Childs isn't banking on it. They're hosting their first annual Tee-Off to Kickoff golf tournament, a fundraiser for the program that's needed now more than ever.
Everybody's doing fundraisers. Support your school. You know, if you're a student out there and you're hearing this and your football team's doing fundraisers, support them by participating in the fundraisers, buying whatever they're selling. You know, just get out there and support your school because, I mean, that might be their only opportunity to raise money for travel, for uniforms, for reconditioning, for safety stuff. So, I mean, if they're out there doing it, you know, it's important that you pitch in and help.
Childs' golf tournament is set for August the 7th at Summerbrook Golf Course in Tallahassee. For more information, you can head on over to WTXL.tv. There are just as many questions at the collegiate level as there is in high school. What will fall athletics look like? At Valdosta State University, the Blazer football team started workouts this week. Now, they can't officially practice until next month, but the NCAA is allowing Division II teams to practice with footballs as long as it's voluntary. This Blazer squad not very happy with the way things ended last season. A 25-game win streak was snapped in the second round of the playoffs as they look to defend their national title. This group is hungry. They return two-time Harlan Hill finalist Rogan Wells at quarterback, as well as several key skill guys. The difference maker is going to be who steps up to lead this football team.
How does that leadership gel and come together and lead this team forward? Because I'm excited to see Rogan play his senior year. I'm excited to see, we had about 26 seniors that have had an unbelievable career here, and they're not content with it. They're very upset, so that, I can't wait to get on the field with them and say, hey, are you working hard enough right now to be a champion? Because I don't know if you are right now, and it's just going to stoke the fire each and every day.
September the 5th, that's the first time we get to see the Blazers this year. They host Savannah State for their season opener. In Tallahassee, Allison Posey, ABC 27.